that we're like picking and choosing, like the US isn't capitalist here, but it is here. No, it's like you judge a country if it's capitalist or not based on how it expresses capitalist traits. So we can say that like in general, the US is a mixed economy that's pretty economically free, right? But we can identify things in the government that we don't like, and we can say, okay, well, those things aren't really expressions of capitalism and we don't agree with them.
So let's just take three things. Let's take.
So, wait a second. Okay. Let's try something here, right? Because it's so like in the ideas about it, that it's not obvious how kind of ridiculous this is. So let's take, for example, something like the free market, right? This idea of the free market. The capitalist rendition and explanation of a free market implies that like having less government regulation, as they often say, means that the markets are freer, right? However, when you implement that solution, monopolies become more and more powerful. Hence why, what was it, like Teddy Roosevelt, infamous imperialist and piece of shit human being, Teddy Roosevelt, passed antitrust laws to prevent these monopolies from growing to be even more powerful, right at the beginning of the 20th century, I believe, right around like the 1890s, if I'm not mistaken, right as like the Industrial Revolution really starts taking off, and like urbanization is becoming more blah, 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 blah. You know, but those were revoked, if I'm not mistaken. They were taken away in conservative era America within the last few decades. So these monopolies have gotten more and more out of control, and now like a handful of American companies own everything. So if you brought up this analogy in this conversation, they'll be forced to tell you that the government intervening in the market means it's not free. However, when you do have the government intervening in the market, oh, I'm about to sneeze, hold on. Wait, maybe we're good? Okay. When you do have the government intervening in the market, you actually create it to be more free because small businesses can perform better, other competitors can be in the market. When you have regulation preventing like absorptions and merging and stuff like that, that actually creates more economic opportunity, more prosperity. You're regulating the big boys to make sure they can't do the bullying on the small guys. And that requires, a free market requires regulation. But you can't analyze that unless you're a fucking dialectical materialist. So then you're stuck in the idea, like the pure, just the, like, it sounds decent at first, right? I can see why he's like, no, like, hear out this argument, right? But it's actually not. It's complete fucking nonsense, as always. And it's good that, like, you know, they're trying to be like, hey, no, like, that's not capitalism, that's capital. But then they're just making up bullshit as they go. And so they can say stuff like, that, like, you know, the United States invading Vietnam and Iraq isn't capitalism, right? But then, like, with China coming out of relative poverty and all that, but that is capitalism. That's all of that. Jesus Christ, like, you can't have, like, that's so, there's, like, such a cynicism about these discussions that are so gross. Like, it's very, I just don't like it at all. Yeah, these, you know, it's like really missing the point, and lacking comprehensive analysis. So I guess we'll see what's about to happen with Tai Lopez now.
Take three things. Are women treated better? Do they thrive more under a communist country? I think it's not only symbolic, but it's also a reflection if you make a woman the leader. Only capitalistic countries have had women as the prime minister or the president, and there's lots of them right now. There's never been one in communist history. In America. Not even close. Okay. Number two, yeah, well, America's not the only capitalistic country. You have Finland, you have New Zealand, you had England, had Margaret Thatcher.
Keep going.
Huh, you notice that Tai Lopez says the United States is a capitalist country. That's pretty interesting. They can't even fucking agree whether or not the United States is a capitalist country. They don't even have unity on that front. Like, oh man. Yeah, the tokenism argument, we literally brought this up. Like, that's not emblematic of change. Hannah already brought this up, so we're just regressing the conversation by bringing up BS. Cam's like trying to listen and be like, maybe it'll be worth it. Hannah's like, I really can't deal with this shit right now, but yeah, let's continue.
Number two, I think it's a big deal that China massively disproportionately killed female babies. It's a big problem, and even they admit it. So when we say, here's the system that treats women better, come on now. The third one that I think is important is where do women want to live?
Well, definitely not here. Okay. sorry.
Where do they want to live in North Korea?
But North Korea is not a communism, though. It's a
They just said they just corrected me and said it is communism.
I'm glad this came up because I just brought up the point of how they don't have consensus on the capitalist side, right? Why is this issue happening, right? Like the thing, like North Korea is not a communist country because they have not achieved communism according to us communists, right? Because a communist society is a stateless, classless society, right? North Korea is a socialist country, right? It's not. It still has a state, and is like Western propaganda is so strong about North Korea. Like, I'm pretty sure there's North Korean currency, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know because they don't tell us anything. We wouldn't know if people want to move to North Korea or not because everything the West tells us is completely a lie. And I do appreciate that Bunny's kind of like, kind of cooking up and realizing like this is a little bullshit because we're getting into xenophobic area as well. And man, dude, if you want to talk you want to talk about abusing female babies, dude, like Thomas Jefferson was a serial slave rapist. Slavery breeding plantations on America were a whole thing, and like we don't even want to start with like indigenous violence on indigenous women, right? So it's like, yeah, dude, like a couple sketchy, like shitty Chinese doctors who killed female babies. Like, yeah, dude, it's, misogyny, evil, fucking, they hate women over there, right? But all that stuff in America about like, women doing back alley abortions and stuff like that. Oh, that's just the free market, baby. And with this issue of like North Korea not being communist, right? Like oftentimes you want to defend it, like as leftists, we'd be like, as real leftists, communists, you'd be like, no, it is a communist country, right? Because you're defending them as like actually existing socialist states, AES, and saying that it's communism, right? But like what is it literally? What is it technically? No, it's not a communist country, and that's why this issue comes up. And that's so funny that Ty is like, oh wow, they just told me this. It's like, dude, you said that like America is a capitalist country, and the other two did not, and they didn't address that. This just goes to show, man, like it's not a fair game. We are too forgiving as communists. It's so funny because they're like, wow, you guys all killed those like landlords and shit, right? But it's like, no, like we are way too tolerant, way too patient, way too like good faith, and that's like really hurting. It's really hurting, the argument for this. Let's see where we're going with this, shall we?
They're not really a communist country.
I think there's
Juche
is Marxism, Leninism combined with Korean nationalism. That's their idea.
Before we get too far away into North Korea, real quick, just from the standing of looking at the Constitution, who could vote, who could participate within the government within America, using America as an example? Rich, white, owning
the
males.
Constitution doesn't say that at all.
Democratically within the nation, actually taking control, rich, white, land-owning males. That was within the Constitution.
I use that. It's not.
Sorry.
It used to be.
It was illegal for black people to vote.
Let's do a legal mandate women as well. And I use that as an example to show.
Yeah, I mean, historical revisionism, literally, man, like a white dude being like, yeah, dude, there was not, like, it never said in the Constitution that there was racism. And he's like, no, dude, there was. And he's like, no, that's not true. And he's like, okay, but black people and women couldn't vote. He's like, okay, like, yeah, dude. Like, what it... Okay, next, I guess.
Women did not have rights within this system. They fought for it.
Okay.
Aggressively with violence to make sure that they got their vote. Capitalism does not earn you your rights, especially if you're a marginalized group, because it's just not profitable.
So the country.
My man Mwumbo is the Giga Chad. This guy is carrying the world on his shoulders. I'm obviously joking, but this dude's consistently bringing up fucking excellent points, man. These are. Like, yeah, and I brought this up earlier as well. Like, people had to fight for these rights. Like, why does capitalism get to take the W when that whole reason there was a problem with it was because of capitalism in the first place? But then, like, when people genuinely tried to deliberately improve women's standards, right, by giving equality, like, if it's not up to capitalist standards of, like, futuristic exploitation and stuff, like, it's not legit. I just... just not legitimate. And yeah, I mean, it's just not profitable for you know, it's God, these arguments, man, these conversations, they just get so unhinged because like we're not operating from the same understandings of the situation.
Other people.
The country was established before capitalist economic theory was established, and capitalists would just argue that
you're
they
the nicest. You look like the nicest guy in the world. Please let me finish this point. Please, Cam. Please. God damn it, Cam. God damn it, Cam.
You need a notepad.
No.
Yeah, bring my notepad.
You need a notepad.
You need the notepad.
Cheating.
I asked.
Only the rich.
Yeah, and I think, you know, because like that, I'm not leading this on at all, but for some reason, I really should talk about this more. But I'm also extremely like invested in the emotional and social vibes of the situation. Like, yeah, I don't know if this is obvious or whatever, but like I'm a pretty extroverted person. I'm ambiverted overall, but like I really, you know, people are cool and interesting, and there's like so much energy and stuff to be around that that I'm really like kind of in that realm. And Malumbo seems, I swear to God, if I find out I'm mispronouncing this guy's name, man. Yeah, if Mole Malumbo is doing a great job. I mean, first of all, the fits are fucking on point for everybody. Everybody looks great. But the fit for him as well, my good friend. Yeah, I just think, like, there's clearly this like, why we're so responsible as like the leftists, like keeping like the formalities and the vibe going. And Malumbo's trying to such a good job of keeping good vibes and like chill, right? Because that's what it's all about. But it's pretty difficult to do that with like capitalism inherently creates this toxic hyper survivalist situation where even small little nice moments where they're had there where it's like, man, I should have grabbed a notepad. I mean, it's Malumbo carrying the vibes. Like it's always us leftists like carrying the good vibes. You know, it's nice to see that there's little small good moments like that. But it's just a little frustrating because like capitalists are still in the status quo, but they know deep down they're the ones with something to lose. You know, communists were the ones coming for the spot, right? So there's kind of like this fear, in my opinion, deep-seated fear in all proponents of capitalism that like it's not really going to work out, right? Because they know it can't succeed for everyone, right? Everybody's complaints about communism are like, okay, well, what kind of shit goes wrong when you try to care about everybody? And it's like, oh, well, it looks like capitalist countries won't leave you alone. That's the problem. But they won't admit that. And you have to admit that some people are going to lose in capitalism. You know, everybody who knows that, who supports the status quo, knows that deep down. Because when push comes to shove, it's so easy to point out how much bullshit and problems have been there from the start, really.